Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Your Football Opinion. I am your host, Theo Ash, and today we're going to be talking about the fallout from the Monday night doubleheader. We have two contenders, or playoff contenders, one Super Bowl contender in the Cincinnati Bengals, that have fallen to 0-3, and changes are going to have to get made. How did we get here? Who's to blame? Who's going to take the axe going forward? We'll discuss it all, starting with the Cincinnati Bengals. And before we talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, I want to talk a little bit about what I saw from Jayden Daniels last week against the Giants. Now, they scored on every single one of their drives. That's impressive. Jayden Daniels did some things really well. He's looking athletic. He's making people miss scrambling. He has been very accurate in a league where a lot of these young quarterbacks have a lot of tools, have pocket presence that I like, have physicality that I like, but they lack accuracy. Jayden Daniels is kind of the opposite, where I'm a little bit, I don't know about his pocket movement. I don't know about how he's navigating things. I don't know about his arm talent, but you can't say that he's not deadly accurate right now. And right now, that seems to be the trait that is trumping everything. So against the Giants, right? A lot of short throws, a lot of stuff underneath designed for him, keep it easy, but he hit all of them, didn't miss any easy throws. And then when they did start to air it out a little bit more in the second half, he remained pretty much on the money. So the accuracy is good, but the key to beating him is to make him feel uncomfortable. All right, he doesn't really like to step up in the pocket right now. He is missing guys to open down the field to run in the first 2 weeks of the season. So to beat the Commanders, all you have to do really is get some pressure on Jayden Daniels, and the defense isn't good enough to overcome any mistakes. Now, it's hard to get pressure on him because he gets the ball out so fast a lot of the time, and I think this offensive line is really good at getting out and blocking people on the move. Cosme, Biotish, especially those two, are very good at it. But at any rate, get pressure on Daniels. It's a very simple formula. This was probably the worst pass rushing performance I've ever seen in my life from the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, if he's going to cook you like that, that means there's no pressure, and there wasn't. A 9.7% win rate for the Cincinnati Bengals pass rush last night. A little bit of context to that stat. The Atlanta Falcons are currently dead last in pass rush win rate overall this season at 23%. All right, easily double digits, double digits. Right? To be at 15% would be a disaster. To be at 9%, it's unheard of. I mean, Trey Hendrickson is a guy who can get pressure, right? He had 20 sacks last year. I don't know what he officially had, but if you ignore half sacks, it was over 20 times that he hit the quarterback and brought him down. Okay, you got that guy. What if he's double teamed or off of his game, which he was last night? Both of those things were true. He's double teamed a lot. He had one sack where he went under the left tackle, went through his inside shoulder and brought down Daniels, who was kind of stepping up and scrambling, had his head down, and Hendrickson was just able to kind of clean him up like that. But outside of that, pretty quiet night from him. Obviously, like I said, doubled a lot, but also shut down in one-on-one situations more than I'd like to see against a Commander's offensive line. So who else is going to be the guy? I mean, no one even shows flashes. No one even pushes the pocket. No one makes anybody feel the slightest bit uncomfortable. Sam Hubbard, opposite of Hendrickson, he's getting one-on-ones with Wiley all damn night. And he does nothing with them. He was a good run defender in the Super Bowl run. He returned a touchdown, 99 yards against the Ravens to win a playoff game. Like, he's a local guy. He should be a beloved character in Cincinnati. Okay, he can't play football right now. He cannot be your starter right now. Okay, to get all of those one-on-ones and not even get within like 5 yards of Daniels, not breathe on him. It's unacceptable. It can't work like that. And then on the interior, like, there's just no push. There's no push. I mean, Daniels didn't feel anything up the A gaps. These guys aren't even good run stuffers. They're bagless. They're powerless. They can drive their legs a little bit, and then it just dies out. It sputters. And There's beautiful pockets for guys to hold the ball for 10 seconds. I saw some dialogue. Why didn't they blitz more? Brett Coleman says, citing PFF numbers, like they only blitzed 11 times. When your pass rush is so bad, how are you not sending the house more often than 11 times? Like, it's your only hope. And I think that's fair. Like, if you called engage 8 every single play, you probably get one sack one time and they punt once. Like, you get one negative play over the course of the game. You'd be better off. It just didn't really happen like that. But to be fair to Lou Anarumo, 11 blitzes is kind of a lot for him. To say that he didn't adjust, I don't think that's true, because the previous 2 weeks they had blitzed 8 times total. Now, you don't blitz Mahomes. That's also a game plan thing. But in general, it's not like what he wants to do. He'd like to drop 8 into coverage if the situation called for that. He does that more than anybody else. He wants to build double teams on your best guys. He wants to play good zone and mix things up on the back end and confuse you more than he wants to just like play man and blitz you. He's not Wink Martindale. He's the total opposite. So in this game, he kind of had to do it a little bit more, but it's still just never going to be his main personality, I feel like. And even if he did blitz, is there evidence that that's a good strategy for the Bengals? Because they've got weaknesses on the back end as well. I mean, on the final play of the game, they sent the house, cover 0. Dax Hill is one-on-one with Terry McLaurin. It's over. It's over. Double move, open in the end zone, game over. That was a really nice throw from Daniels as well. That one was under some pressure. He didn't step up, right? The pressure was too much to do that. He kind of had to fade away and throw a dime. He delivered there. That was his best throw of the night, best throw of his career so far. One of the best throws probably of the season, honestly. Like, that was a banger throw. But still, too little, too late in terms of pressure in that case. And it's just an unsolvable problem for a defensive coordinator. You got to take resources away from somewhere. You can either rush 4 and have numbers on each side in coverage, or you can rush more than that and someone's going to be one-on-one down the field. And Taylor Britt can win some one-on-ones, but he's pretty slow. And as good as the pick was last week, he also got burned for a touchdown by Rashee Rice. This week, Terry McLaurin took the top off the defense on him, and he gave up a huge play there. Against Jayden Daniels and the Commanders, what do you got to worry about? You got to worry about getting the ball out quick, right? Those little screens underneath, and then based on everything he did in college, not so much this year, you got to worry about the deep ball with him. So you kind of want some depth in the defense, right? Read things out, protect the corners. It's hard to blitz from those looks all the time. So just rudderless from Cincinnati. I don't know how they can come back from this. I saw Drew Brees go 7-9 a couple times in the prime of his career because he had the 32nd ranked defense. And Joe Burrow, he ain't Drew Brees, first of all. Second of all, I mean, even tonight he was Drew Brees, or last night he was Drew Brees, and they still lost. They still lost. They did not punt either. They did not turn the football over either. He had over 300 yards, multiple touchdowns. He did what he needed to do against his bottom 5 Washington secondary. And didn't matter. Defense is really just that bad. So I think Zach Taylor has got to be feeling some heat, because he's the only guy who can be feeling any heat, honestly. The Bengals don't really have an official GM. They've got like a director of player personnel who makes a lot of the decisions. Decisions haven't been great, but whose fault is that? Is it his fault? Does he think Jesse Bates is a bad player? Does he think DJ Reader is a bad player? Does he think Joe Mixon is a bad player? Or can he just not give out guarantees? I think you just can't give out guarantees, right? So because you're the poorest organization, the window closes pretty quick. 2021 was great. And then other teams want your great players and can pay them more. Obviously, there's a salary cap. Everybody gets the same amount of money to spend, but guaranteed money is guaranteed. And when you're an owner and you're not the richest owner, it's hard to commit to saying like, oh yeah, I'll give you $30 million a year, Jamar Chase, fully guaranteed. But if you're the Los Angeles Rams, maybe, I don't know, you could probably say like, yeah, we could maybe make that work. Yeah, we believe that you'll pay it off, and we've got that kind of money just on hand. So yeah, you lose Mixon, you lose Reader, you lose Bates. You're just, what are you left with? You got to draft super well, and they haven't. Dax Hill not looking great. Chris Jenkins, defensive tackle they took in the second round, I liked him. He hasn't seen the field. He hasn't done anything. Miles Murphy hasn't done anything. I think he's hurt right now. But you're going to be bad if that's the formula. You let guys go, you don't replace them in the draft, you're going to be bad. And that's where the Bengals are at. And you can't fire ownership, so it's probably Zach Taylor who's going to get the boot. We heard a little bit about a change in offensive scheme this year with Callahan out the door going to Tennessee. Thought maybe we'd see things that looked a little bit more Shanahan-y, maybe more, the under center, the crossing routes, all the good stuff, right? Not really seeing that so far this year. They're in shotgun basically at the exact same rate they were last year. They're under center 1% more this time. Really, the big adjustment that they've made is instead of being in 12 personnel, they've over doubled their 12 personnel rate. They got a bunch of tight ends on the field. It's not a good adjustment. I like Eric All. Gesicki's fine, but when you've got Higgins and Chase and Yoshi Voss and Jermaine Burton, who they took, and I really like him. I mean, is your best 11 on the field if your new wrinkle is just putting two tight ends on the field all the time? So, yeah, it's pretty rough. They're facing man coverage at a much higher rate this time around than they were the previous two seasons. Almost a third of the time, teams are playing man against them. Because I know T. Higgins has been out. Maybe this will start to change, but you've got guys who aren't quite as good at separating out there these days. So their new wrinkles are just toothless. Their offensive line still ain't great. Their defense, horrifically bad. This is not a Super Bowl contender, man. This is not even a playoff contender. I just don't see it happening for them after falling to 0-3. It's a tough hole to dig yourself out of, especially when the defense is this bad with no signs of getting better. I mean, who's in the building to save them? Osai, maybe? Chris Jenkins, like I mentioned. Lou cooking something up, but again, what can you cook up with bad players? I don't know. I really don't. So it's pretty rough stuff. Pretty rough stuff from them so far. Talking about another team that got its pants pulled down last Monday night. We are talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this is what I was worried about. I think I talked about it on this podcast, that it was about to be a revelation on how bad everything is about this Jaguars team, and specifically the Jaguars offense. Watching the Browns game last night, or last week, that is, you could tell it was leading up to this. All right. I know that was a close game. I think a lot of people didn't really think too much of it. Like, oh, Jaguars, borderline playoff team. Browns, borderline playoff team. Browns just barely win. They've got a good defense. Jaguars will just move on, right? It didn't really get a lot of attention. But then you turn on that game, and it's one of the worst. I mean, it looks like the Urban Meyer era. The offensive play calling makes no sense to me. They're calling up plays that are just inherently low percentage for Trevor Lawrence. And then Trevor Lawrence himself is playing the worst football of his career, at least under Doug Pederson. These are the worst two games I've seen from him in the Pederson era. Can't hit anything. Just completely inaccurate. He hasn't, or going into this week, he hadn't thrown any picks. That wasn't so much the problem. It was just, hey, there's a speed out, and you need to hit a first down, and it's 5 yards over Gabe Davis's head. And then Trevor will be locked in on the next play, and he'll throw some dime, and then the receiver will drop it. And then the next play, the play call doesn't make any sense, and you've got Brian Thomas Jr. trying to block Grant Delpit who is like in the A gap already, and they run it right, or in the C gap already, and they just run it right at him. And of course, the wide receiver can't like range over and block somebody who's already in the right place and just comes downhill and stops it. So the amount of plays for the Jaguars that like everything runs smooth, like Lawrence is right, the receiver actually catches it, and the play call was good, is like zero over the course of the Browns game. Like sometimes Lawrence looked good. Sometimes the receivers look good. Sometimes the play calling look good. No, they don't all three happen at the same time ever. And that's why they've lost 8 straight. They have the worst GM in the league in Trent Baalke. I think that this is a good way to think about anybody or any team. The most important players are your probably owner, GM, head coach, top assistant, quarterback. All right. I think looking at those 5 guys can give you a pretty good sense at how good your organization is. The Jaguars, like Baalke, Press Taylor is your top assistant. Like it's Lawrence hasn't been great, right? Like he's not a Mahomes or tier 1 level quarterback, and Doug Pederson has won 10 games once in his entire coaching career when they went to the Super Bowl. He's kind of a one-hit wonder in that way. So it's just you've got 2 guys really weighing you down there in the top assistant and the GM. And then the guys who are supposed to be proven, Lawrence and Pederson, just aren't good enough to lift everything up. Baalke, why is the offensive line the same as last? This was a horrible offensive line last year, especially run blocking. Just couldn't do it. Bottom 3 in blown block rate last year. They bring them all back. They give up resources for Ezra Cleveland and then pay him. Okay, what? I guess the center was different. Fortner goes to Mitch Morris. It's not enough. That's not enough. On the defensive side of the ball, the secondary got gutted, and they brought in players that were bad. Darby is your corner now, I guess, for like no reason. Why are these things happening? I just don't get it. They invest further in the pass rush, which was fine already with Walker and Hines Allen. They bring in Eric Armstead. Okay, that made something they were already good at a little bit better. But did it fix the run defense? Does it fix the secondary? Does it fix the offensive line? Does it fix the receiving core dropping everything? Does it fix the coaching staff? No, it was just an expense that didn't really help you. I mean, it made something good a little better, but it didn't really plug any holes. And that's where you're putting all your money instead of bringing back the guys who played all right for you last year, like Jenkins, the safety. Just stupid. Just stupid. Trayvon Walker with the number 1 overall pick, like kind of a little silly. I know he's looked fine, but that move kind of a little silly. I can't say who I had as the number 1 overall edge in that class. It wasn't Aiden Hutchinson, unfortunately. But be smarter than me, all right? I don't know what I'm talking about. Draft Aiden Hutchinson if you want an edge. Like, get the right guy. Or draft Derek Stingley or trade back, or Sauce Gardner was in that class. I know positional value is scary, but when you were looking at that draft class a couple of years ago, like, yeah, man, it's just not a good year to have the number 1 overall pick. They already had Lawrence. They're not going to take a quarterback. Like if you had the number 1 overall pick, you want the best player in the draft. Like, why not take Sauce or Stingley? Like, those 2 were the premier blue chippers, it felt like. They didn't go that much later. Just silly decisions, and they can't overcome bad quarterback play, inaccurate quarterback play, drops. It's just not that type of roster. On the pick that Lawrence threw, I don't know what he was doing. I mean, the crosser was wide open. He just overthrew it right into the hands of Damar Hamlin. But at the same time, that was another play where he's rolling out left off play action, and all the receivers are going right. So you're asking him from a footwork perspective, roll left, slide back right, make a throw. I mean, it wasn't under pressure, so he should have hit it. But it just things like that, like details in the play design. I'm like, this is okay. Lawrence, you're dog shit for this. Like, this is terrible, right? Part of my language this episode. I'm sorry. But also, like, yeah, there needs to be some level of detail. There needs to be some level of flow. There needs to be some level of identity What are the Jaguars good at? What are they trying to be good at? How about that as a question? I don't know. I don't know. They're top 10 in under center rate and run rate on early downs. I don't think of them as like a ground and pound type of team. They're not good at it. They haven't invested in an offensive line that would make me suggest, oh, this is a team that wants to run the football and wants to be really good at it. Okay, so are you a passing team? I mean, I guess they are. They've got Lawrence and they drafted Brian Thomas Jr. and brought in Gabe Davis, but like what kind of passes? Like is there anything? The Commanders, the first 2 weeks of the season, they had an identity. I don't know if it was a very good identity. It was just throw screens all the time, but at least it's like, okay, there's something that they're good at, right? It doesn't have to be something awesome. You don't have to be good at hitting the 5-step drop back and airing it out to have an identity. Like that's the ideal one. I don't know, man. It feels like their identity is just to be different for the sake of being different. Call plays that the defense isn't expecting because they're bad plays. So I've heard the whispers. Pederson doesn't like Lawrence. Lawrence doesn't like Pederson. The owner is angrier than he's ever been. I have expected to wake up this morning and see the firing notice now. Has he been fired? I haven't checked in a minute. It could happen literally any time. There has to be change. He didn't get fired. I'm just reading this article real quick. There has to be changes, whether it's play design, personnel, everything. Everything's on the table. Let's call it. And those are the things I have to look at. We have to look at it as a staff and make adjustments. This is from The Athletic. He said, you say everything. When asked if potential changes include Jacksonville's starters, including Lawrence, Pederson did not clarify. You say everything is on the table. We've got to look at injury. Tonight we had some guys' injuries, could be moved that way, could be performance. It's all things we had to evaluate as we move forward. Okay, so that's a nothing answer at the press conference last night. I guess I didn't think about that. Is Lawrence's job in jeopardy? We did see Mac Jones last night. I guess that is a benching, although maybe you could say the game is just so out of hand. You don't want a guy to get hurt. They shouldn't bench Trevor Lawrence for Mac Jones. I don't know why that would fix anything. But I think the most likely change, if they don't beat Houston, is Doug himself is gone. It hasn't happened yet. We'll see what they do. Maybe if Doug and Lawrence really are not getting along and blaming each other for everything, we could see a benching next week. As Doug says, I'm not letting you and your overthrows cost me everything. But I don't know if Mac Jones is the solution to your problems. Maybe. But it's just rough. Why they fired everybody this offseason and kept Press Taylor, I don't know. Just an organization that has made silly decision after silly decision and is now kind of paying the price, I feel like. The Bills, though, they also played in this game. Josh Allen's the MVP of pro football right now, pretty easily. He's playing at a higher level than everybody else, and it's not even close. I think the only other guy that I've seen playing even maybe even close to him, it hasn't been Mahomes. I think Justin Herbert has been playing pretty good considering his circumstances, running the ball a lot, not getting a ton of opportunity to drop back, not working with the greatest assortment of weapons, interior offensive line. I think he is someone that is kind of climbing up the quarterback rankings as like kind of the next guy after Lawrence and Allen. Obviously, Lamar, he's had his struggles this year with the deep ball, and it hasn't quite been as consistent as of an offense as last year. But I think if the line starts to solidify, he's right in that conversation. But Burrow has kind of dropped out of it. Stafford is playing at a really high level. Maybe him. But Allen is just in a tier of his own right now. You could say whoever. They just don't have the results that Allen does. And after trading Diggs away, you can't even really say like, oh, he's got this stacked group of receivers, unlike Lawrence or unlike Herbert or Lamar or something like that. Like he's getting it done with a second round rookie, Khalil Shakir. Like these are good players certainly, but it's going exactly as you'd hoped. Like, yeah, there's no superstar here, but everybody is pretty good, right? Everybody is very good even, and everybody has their role. Keon Coleman, the contested catch guy on the boundary. Khalil Shakir, the dude you can just dump it off to and have him pick up yak. Dalton Kincaid, hasn't had a huge season so far, a little bit better last night, right? Get him up the scene. They all have their own area of the field that they can exploit, it feels like. Marquez Valdez-Scantling also kind of fits into that. He's a specialist doing one thing, right? Curtis Samuel, jet sweeps, things like that. Everybody is a piece of the puzzle, and the puzzle is just firing on all cylinders because Allen is the maestro. He can make it all work. And the level that he is, the accuracy, the lack of turnovers from him, still getting huge play after huge play, just looking unstoppable in the pocket, right? I think about this all the time, watching like Bryce Young this year, and how often it is that there's a little bit of pressure, that there's a DB blitzing at you and he's free, and we take it for granted. How Allen, it's just a 0% success rate when a DB comes at him. He's just not getting brought down. So to have that just magic, plus everything else that he provides, he's better than ever behind the line of scrimmage before the snap, right? Getting everybody in the right place, communicating, changing the play, diagnosing things. Like he's hitting his stride. And the Bills overall look like the best team in the league right now. Pretty easily. Pretty easily. The 1 seed in the AFC. Is it still the Steelers, or did I forgot, I didn't check this. Okay, the Steelers are the 1 seed in the AFC. The Bills are technically the 2 seed, but they've got 112 points compared to the Steelers' 51 and compared to the Chiefs' 75. The next best team in terms of points in the AFC, it is the Chiefs at 75. The Ravens have 71. Bills are at 112. They're at 112. They also have only allowed 48 points this year. That's less than the Jets. That's less than the Dolphins. That's less than the Patriots. That's less than the Chiefs. That's less than the Raiders. That's less than the Ravens. That's less than the Browns, the Bengals by a lot, the Texans, the Colts, the Titans, the Jaguars. And they've played, who have they played? The Cardinals, they're a good offense. The Dolphins, they should have been a good offense. The Jaguars now. That's 3 franchise quarterbacks that you're going up against. It's not like they're playing the Raiders every week or something like that. The team gets a nickel. I've talked about it a lot. Their nickel base encourages everybody to run the ball on them, and it's just not a formula that works. You're running on a good front four. They're passing with Josh Allen on the other side. It just doesn't work. The math doesn't work out. It's like the Warriors back in the day. Well, I guess kind of still, but they're just going to hit more threes than you, so they're the better team. That's what the Bills can do. They're letting you into the paint. They're letting you run the ball as much as they want. They're still pretty good at defending it even. And just mathematically, you're not going to beat them playing like that. You're going to have to lean into the punch, throw on a secondary that's built to defend the pass, that's playing too high. And the secondary looks amazing. I cannot get over how good everybody is playing. After losing, I remember watching the Cowboys game last year that they ended up winning. How good Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer were in that one. Coming down and just capping everything in zone, just high IQ, blitzing. Poyer coming downhill, still a problem. You're going with Rapp and DeMar Hamlin, and it's like, is that going to be there this year? Are those types of games possible where they go up against a contender and just shut them down? DeMar Hamlin is playing fantastic football. Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford looks like the best corner duo in the sport. They're playing great. Von Miller is playing great. Didn't think we'd see that, certainly. Thought like maybe the pass rush rate sustaining at a pretty good level without Von last year could be a fluke the more sample size we get. And it's like, okay, Von is washed. You survived it last year. Are you going to continue to survive it? I thought Von was going to continue to stay washed. No, he just gets better. So it's actually even better than it was last year. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't think they'd be this good. I did not think this was going to be the best version of the Bills that we had seen. Definitely not. Trading Diggs away for a second-round pick was a great idea. That needed to be done. But for them to just just kill teams like this. I'll admit I did not see that one coming. So that does it for the Monday night games. Let's go to the other kind of Sunday games to close this thing out. The Chiefs beat the Falcons in prime time. I am very worried about Kirk still. I saw the more mobility from him these past 2 weeks. I saw the play action get incorporated back into the offense. Obviously needed to happen, otherwise he was going to get benched. So that's good. But what I'm not seeing is the ability to plant and really drive into throws now. And I think late in that game, we saw him look like he had a concerning lack of arm strength. The throw to Pitts needed to be higher in the end zone. It should have been PI, but it also should have been higher to give him a chance. He shouldn't be reaching down and trying to catch something off the corner's butt after he beats him cleanly. All right, he's 6'6" or something. Drake London beats his guy clean, running free down the sideline for a game-winning touchdown, a huge play. The ball falls way short of him. Okay. He had another chance in the end zone right after the Pitts play. The ball falls way short of him. So just because Kirk's mobility is better than we maybe thought, there's still the arm talent portion of it to contend with, all right? He tore his Achilles on the foot that he drives off of. And maybe over the course of the year, he gets more confidence in it and it gets better, just like the play action did from weeks 1 to week 2. Something to keep an eye on, though. Something to keep an eye on. And I mentioned earlier that they have the worst pass rush win rate in the league. The Judon trade was a big miss, it seems like. It has not been, I guess, not a huge miss because they didn't give up that much. And then for some reason, he decided to just come play once the team changed instead of continuing to hold out for a new contract. I guess he's not built like Hassan Reddick, who's probably been fined his entire net worth by now. So I guess maybe it's just a power play that the Falcons won. But he's been disappointing. Going from Braylon Trice tearing his ACL to trading for Judon, like it seems like a big upgrade on paper, but from a team building perspective, that just didn't make a ton of sense to me. However, they do have the best safety duo in the league. I'll give them that. Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates, those were worthy free agents. Absolutely balling. Maybe if the offense can continue to get better and Kirk Cousins gain some confidence, the defense can kind of win on takeaways from those two because they're incredible. The Chiefs, though, I'm getting kind of worried. And I know whenever we say that, it's going to be like, well, it doesn't really count. It's just January. It's not January yet, so they can look however they want. They're 3-0. But I don't know. It's so hard. The standard is a three-peat, something that's never been done before. And going into this year, my expectation was, hey man, they are going to be maybe one of the better teams in NFL history. I mean, they already won 2 games or 2 Super Bowls. And that was without Tyreek Hill and the explosiveness down the field. Now they're getting worthy. Rashee Rice is kind of stepping into a bigger role, and he looks great. The defense is top 10. They just had a dominant playoff run. Could this be a 17-0 type season? Could this just be a completely dominant season? I mean, we're talking about best version of one of the greatest dynasties we've seen, right? Could it be that type of thing? It just doesn't look like that right now. And if you play with fire enough, it's hard to win 3 in a row. It's hard to win 3 in a row if you've got these flaws. Kelsey, right? Completely invisible. We've got Mahomes playing, not his best football. We've got a defensive line that is, okay, the Falcons were 32nd in pass rush win rate. The Chiefs are 31st at 25%. Okay. Chris Jones is getting a little older. Travis Kelsey getting a little older. Are they going to be at the peak of the powers like they need to be at the end of the year? I don't know. The Falcons had 2 missing offensive linemen. It should have been a cakewalk for this D-line. They still let the Falcons kind of hang around. They were lucky that the Falcons dialed up the worst play I've ever seen at the end of the year, at the end of the game. Don't know what that one was. But I think it's fair to say, like, there are some things we need to watch out for the Kansas City Chiefs. Love their secondary. Obviously, I have a lot of faith in Mahomes, but just some things where it's like, okay, I don't know. You need your best players to be the best players, not only on the team but in the league for them, and that's not what Kelsey and maybe even Jones looks like right now. Not so much Jones. Jones is looking fine. Never mind. It's more the people outside of Jones, Karlaftis, the other Felix, Enrique, Zoma. There needs to be a little bit more edge pressure, I think. I shouldn't put it on Jones. That's just me being lazy and saying the star is responsible for the results. Not quite true. He's had a good season. I think that's all I've got off the dome. I'm going to watch some more film, take some analysis to TikTok. If you want to see my analysis, follow PFN365 on TikTok, on Twitter. Follow me at Theo Ash NFL on TikTok and Twitter. Keep an eye out for maybe some new YouTube content. I'm trying to put some 10 to 20 minute videos together maybe. Keep an eye out for maybe some new YouTube content from me on the PFN page. I'm still kind of in the works, but be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. And that'll do it. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you next week.